guys, this is a special edition of Krista's Fireside Lectures for all of you guys who may have forgotten what we learned in the first semester. Now, I've had quite a few questions about editorials and writing feature profiles or profile features, and I'd like to make this video for you guys just to recap what you did last semester. Going back in time, you will remember from page 166 onwards, crafting feature stories. And before that, earlier on in your book, you will have done different types of news articles, and one of them was the editorial. So we're going to start with the editorial first. And the editorial is the editor's letter at the beginning of a magazine or a newspaper. The editor's letter usually speaks about the contents of a magazine, and roughly speaking, it is an opinion, but it is an opinion which is informed, and it is based on the values and the standpoints of the publication that the editor is writing for. So, if we take a look at this edition of Getaway, okay, it's a special edition. It's the Kruger, 9 best driving routes, the north revealed, 4x4 trails, east and west, Mdluli Lodge, explore Manyeleti, photography, capture star trails, best wildlife photography kits, and Mozambique Island beauty. So now, this is, as you can see, a special edition all about the Kruger Park. This is the editor's letter. So, we've got here, alone on foot in the Kruger. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but basically, it can be as narrative as this, but it is generally an opinion piece that is informed by facts. In this instance, the editor is writing about his experience in the Kruger on foot. So the grumble of the 4x4 recedes into the distance. I'm all alone in the Kruger. No rifle, no map, no knife. Only instinct and patchy common sense to guide me. My heart is thumping. Don't run, listen, breathe. And then there you have the image, which is the Kruger, and this is probably the dude standing there. And of course, there is your caption, Porphyry-Lana Gorge, which is where in the Kruger this is, and the image credits Anton Krohn. He continues, after getting my bearings, I think, find a tree. So I head off the track in search of one that's easy to climb with branches high enough to keep me clear of any cats that might come snooping. We saw lions near here yesterday. They might still be about. Time drifts in the crook of my jackalberry. A bushbuck ambles by, not noticing the human fruit dangling above. Then a pod of warthogs, all a snuffle. After half an hour, I feel more in tune with my surroundings and pluck up the courage to descend the tree and venture into my domain. And that is the introduction. And then he begins explaining this, and it's about how they have come to this remote corner of the Northern Kruger for a pioneering eco-training field guide course. And here, although it's not normal to reference in text, and certainly not in this way, because they've done probably an article or something here somewhere on this particular field guide course. Yeah, there we go, Malulege concession, okay? So that's where it is, and so he's obviously punting this a little bit for a reason. It appears in the magazine. Of course, this is a special edition focusing particularly on the Kruger Park, so this whole editor's letter will also focus particularly on the Kruger Park. And then, of course, we've got this, the ending, we hope you enjoy our All Things Kruger issue. So this is the editor's letter. This is an editorial. If you are unsure about how to write an editorial, you have to think about the theme of the issue. Okay, your theme, is part of the F3 briefing. So you have to consider what the theme is and then speak about that theme in relation to what you have written about and other things going on in the country. Try to not make it only your opinion. In other words, what you think is real. Try and base it on facts, because we all have our own truth, but it's not necessarily fact. Okay? Next, I'm going to go on to the feature story. Okay, profile feature. This is from the Farmers Weekly, and the headline is "Meet one of SA's top merino wool producers." Okay, so this is your hook. This is not your introduction. The Kleeheuvel Trust, based in Bredasdorp, recently achieved one of the top 10 best prices in the history of South African wool sales, and the highest price during the previous season's BKB wool auctions. Pam and Andre Christie Smith spoke to Glenys Creel about their production approach. So, in this, we've pretty much got what it's about, where it's based. We've got a lot of the 5 W's and the H, but it's not the introduction, because the introduction is here. First of all, before we go on to the introduction, this is your image, and the caption, as you can see, links the image to the story. Rams use their horns in self-defense against predators. And of course, the image is a ram with massive horns. So you kind of, you're given a visual link to the story with the ram, with the horns, but then also, and you can see that they've all been sheared, because they're all, or shorn, should I say, because they're all pretty naked without their woolly coats. But at the same time, we've got this explainer. The caption explains why we're looking at this particular ram, because he uses his horns to defend against predators. And the photo credit there is by Glenys Creel, the person who wrote the story. Okay. I'm again not going to do story time with you guys. You can go through this. I'll leave the links at the bottom in the description. But what it does is it looks at the people who are building this merino flock, who are producing the wool. Kleeheuvel, situated near Legalis in the Western Cape's Overberg region, has a rich farming heritage. It was once part of the historic Zoetendals Valley farm that belonged to the Van Breders of Bredasdorp, who owned South Africa's first commercial merino flock in 1817. Okay, a little bit of history there, and that's the beginning of it. While merinos are no longer produced on the original farm, Kleeheuvel has continued the merino tradition, and the flock has steadily improved with each passing generation. And then we've got a good quote here. "My father, John Albertine, and my husband, Andre, and I have all put effort into breeding sheep with good wool qualities, resulting in the flock looking totally different from what it did 2 generations ago," says Pam Christie Smith, who belongs to the 6th generation on the farm. Okay, so that there is your whole introduction. Then, of course, we've got a subtitle looking at good genetics, which means that all of this is looking at how they breed the animals for good genetics. Better survival, what they focus on there, so the sheep survive better. Feeding, they eat well, and what they eat is important, etc., etc. Breeding and underrated weathers. I'm not quite sure what a weather is in this instance, but I'm guessing that it is a stock breeding term. So we'll ride right past that point and look at this. With the sheep being grouped according to their ages and ewes being kept separate from wethers, okay, Andre has been able to develop full traceability from the wool to a group of animals without using any special electronics. It's actually quite easy to introduce traceability as we have such distinct groups and each group is shown separately, he says. So that's the end of this point over here, and then we go on to the conclusion. He and Pam dream of developing their own wool brand one day, with buyers coming to their farm to buy wool, as is done in Australia. We've proved that we can produce constant good quality. The problem, however, is that buyers, like everybody else in the country, don't know what is going to happen in South Africa, making them hesitant to get too closely involved with farms here, he says. So that is your conclusion. The conclusion looks ahead. What do you envision for the future? What are you hoping for? What are the factors that will affect your success? The factors that will influence or present obstacles to you, possibly hinder your success? What are you hoping for? That is a good conclusion because it's short and to the point. It doesn't go on and on and on, but it kind of just rounds it off. So also, profile features are longer than normal news features. You will find all of this information in your textbook. You did this last semester, guys, just remember. But what you need to make sure of is that when you do a profile feature, you take the time to find something that is unique and newsworthy about the person that you're interviewing. Okay, ideally you choose the person because they have unique and newsworthy characteristics that are worthwhile writing about, and then interview them about that so that you can actually write the story. And then you can use your subtitles for this, and remember that every idea has its own paragraph. Do you see how they are using paragraphs here? That is when we have a space between pieces of writing. One idea per paragraph. And when you have a quote, then you leave a line afterwards. Okay, quotes get their own paragraphs. So this is well laid out, and you can go through it yourselves. But just a very, very quick catch-up video on these two types, which you guys seem to be having trouble with at the moment. That's pretty much it from me. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Love you. Bye.